To set up Active Directory domain services on Windows Server 2025, you will need to install Active Directory domain service rule and then promote the server to a domain controller. In this lesson, I will show you how you can set up Active Directory domain services. Before that, I will explain domain controller and its key functions. A domain controller is a special server within a computer network that handles authentication and authorization for users and computers within a domain, typically in a Windows Active Directory environment. It acts as a gatekeeper, verifying user credentials and enforcing security policies to ensure only authorized users can access network resources. Here are key functions of domain controller. 1. Domain controller verifies user login credentials and determines the authorized access to network resources. 2. Domain controller applies security policies to access requests, thereby ensuring that only authorized users can access specific resources. 3. Domain controllers store and manage information about users, computers, and other domain resources. And 4. Domain controller provides a central point for managing users' accounts, security policies, and other domain settings. In essence, domain controllers are crucial for 1. Preventing unauthorized access to sensitive data and resources. 2. Managing user accounts and policies centrally rather than on individual machines. And 3. Ensuring that security policies are applied consistently across the network. It is time to promote our DC1 server to a domain controller. I will start by installing Active Directory domain controller role. I will then promote the server to a domain controller. This is my LAC DC1. Now I want to first and foremost install the Active Directory domain service role. So make sure that you have your server manager open and go to manage. Then under the manage, you select add rules and features. Then you will see this wizard. It's called add rules and features wizard. And the first page there is before you begin. The purpose of this page is that it's trying to explain to you what this wizard is meant for. It said this wizard will help you to install rules, rule services, or features. You can determine which rules, rule services, or features that you want to install based on the computing needs of your organization. For example, if you want to share documents or you want to host a website. For this particular scenario, what we want to use this wizard for is to enable Active Directory domain services that will allow us to now promote this server to a domain controller. So I'll click next. It will now take me to the installation type where I need to select one out of these two types of installation. The first one is the role-based or feature-based installation, and the second one is remote-based service installation. I'm going to stick to role-based or feature-based installation because it will allow me to enable the roles or services or features from the server itself. I'll click next. Now it's asking me to select the destination server. That is the server that I want to install the rules or features on. The server name is LAC DC1, and as you can see, it's already selected. Try and confirm the IP address also from your end. I'll click next. Next is to select the role that I want to install or roles. For this scenario, the role I'm looking for or the role that I want to select is Active Directory Domain Services. Active Directory Domain Services stores information about objects on the network and make this information available to users and network administrators. Active Directory Domain Services uses domain controller to give network users access to permitted resources anywhere on the network through a single logon process. So I will check the box and it's giving me another pop-up. So the purpose of this purpose is to enable me to add features that are required for the Active Directory domain services. These are the features that has been discovered that are required for these Active Directory domain services, but that are not presently installed. One of them is group policy management. Another one is the remote server administration tools. And under the remote server administration tools, you can see a lot of tools that are there. So I will select this button, add features. It simply means that I don't need to add those features again in the next page. So from the select features, I'll just continue and I'll click next. Now it's not taking me now to the description page of the role that I selected. That is the Active Directory domain services. And I will click next again. And it's asking me now to confirm the installation selection. Now, there is this checkbox that says that restart the destination server automatically if required. The purpose of this checkbox is that it will automatically help you to restart the server in case there's a need for the server to restart. So I always like to check this box anytime I'm installing a role of features. Now I'll click install. So it's starting the installation. Yes, installation has started on the lag DC1. Now at this point, I'm going to pause this video and I'll be back once the installation is complete. Now it's saying that configuration is required and that installation is succeeded on lag DC1. Now I'm going to close this dialog. The next thing that I will do now is to come to this place. As you can see, there is this notification. I'll click the notification and it's also telling me the same thing, that there is a need for me now to configure this server because of the new rule that I just installed. That is the Active Directory domain services. So what I will do now is to click this link that says promote this server to a domain controller. It's now giving me another wizard, that is Active Directory domain services configuration wizard. The first page there is the deployment configuration, where I will need to select one option out of these three options when it comes to deployment configuration. At this point, we don't have any forest, we don't have any domain. This is our first Active Directory server. So this first option, add a domain controller to an existing domain, is not going to work. Also, this second one, add a new domain to an existing forest, is not going to work as well. The only option that I can select at this point is the add a new forest. I will click inside this text box and I'm going to type the new root domain name. The root domain name is going to be delany.local. Then I will click next. It will now take me to the domain controller options, where I have forest functional level as well as domain functional level, and other options are also there. The functional levels define the capabilities accessible within the Active Directory domain services or the forest. They also determine which Windows Server operating system that you can run on a domain controller in the domain of forest. You also notice that there is this section that talk about DSRM, that is Directory Service Restore Mode. Directory Service Restore Mode is specifically designed for repairing and recovering backup of Active Directory objects. You can now add your password in the Directory Service Restore Mode section, and it is managed by the ntdsutil command. It simply means that whatever password that I put here I will need the same password anytime I want to adjust anything on this server when it comes to the domain controller. For example, if I want to demote this server from being a domain controller, I will need this password. So whenever you are setting up your domain controller server, always store this password in a secret place. You will also notice that there is this global catalog GC. Global catalog stores a complete copy of the AD object attributes and a partial copy of all the object attributes of all other domains. What about this one? RODC. Except for account password, an RODC holds all database objects and attributes. It is used where security is a major concern. This option is disabled for primary domain controller. You notice that we also have what the DNS server, and this is actually checked by default. It simply means that this server will also act as DNS server at this point. Because DNS server and domain controller server, they work together. At this point now that I'm setting up a domain controller server, I need a server to be functioning as a DNS server as well. So I'm going to click next button. It will now take us now to the DNS option. You will notice this warning message that says a delegation for this DNS server cannot be created because the authoritative parent zone cannot be found. This warning occurs due to the absence of a DNS server in the environment, and authorization has not been granted to access the zone from the external environment on this particular DNS server. So I'll click next. In the additional option where it asks me to now verify the NetBIOS name assigned, the NetBIOS name is what? Delany. If you remember, the root domain name is delany.local. So it automatically pick Delany as is what? As its NetBIOS domain name. I'll click next. Now it takes me to the path. So this database folder is where your database, that is the ntds.dit file, will be located. What about the log file folder? The log file folder logs the file or any changes or whatever you are doing on the database folder. For example, if you created a new user, it will store that new user's information in the database folder, while the log file will store other information about the date and time that you created that user. If you change the user's password, the new password will be retained by the database folder, while the log file will contain information about the fact that you did not just created the user, rather you updated the user's information like the password. So it's going to retain that particular date and other information that will allow you to be able to know that this password was changed so time and so on. What about the sysvol folder? It's a shared folder that stores the group policy information along with the logon and logoff scripts. So I'm going to click next, and now I find myself in the review option where I will now check if everything that I selected are in order. Then I'll click the next button. At this point, it's performing the prerequisite check. It's trying to verify if the domain controller operations or whatever I selected are in order. Now, this green checkbox indicated that everything is okay, that I can go ahead to do what? To install the domain controller. So what I will do now is to click install, and the installation is now in progress. So along the line is going to reboot, and at the end of the day, once the server is ready, you're going to realize that we now have a domain controller server instead of just ordinary server that we used to have. So I'm going to pause this video at this point and I will be back once the installation is successful. Now the server is ready. As you can see, it says sign in to what Delany. That is the NetBIOS domain name. So I will use Delany here /administrator because the first user in the domain by default is going to be the administrator. Then I will enter the password. Now what happened is that there is a default administrator for this server before. That's the lag DC1. And because I now converted this server, or I promoted this server to a domain controller, it's going to use that user, that administrator, as the administrator of the domain. And also the password of the administrator will also be the password of the administrator of the domain. So I'll press enter. So this is the server manager, and it simply shows now that we now have additional informations, and these are the two main additional roles that we now have on this server. It's an Active Directory domain service server as well as what the DNS server. In this lesson, you have learned about domain controller and how you can set it up. Thank you for watching. If you like what you saw, consider subscribing to this channel. Please, let me know what you think in the comment section. And do not forget to leave a like and share this video. See you in the next one.